Today on the podcast we have lovely Holly Lamb.
Yep.
And Holly, we've been trying to work out a way of describing what you do, but women's health coach, menopause coach,
yeah.
Everything included around that. Thank you for coming on. Some context, I suppose. We had Alyssa Dobson on from Mission Menopause about a month ago, and we put that out, and then someone said, you need to have a chat with Holly. So I thought, okay, well, we'll do that then.
Yeah.
So you've come with a very good reference, and it'd be really interesting to hear what you do and what you get up to.
So I kind of started off as a personal trainer, training mostly women, and then kind of women in their like mid-40s plus, and then started to kind of see women with menopausal symptoms, didn't really understand much about it at that point. So I decided to kind of deep dive into what it was all about, because I mean, I was 34 at the time, so that wasn't even on my radar. I was like, I don't even need to think about this yet. And little did I know. So that kind of like led me down a rabbit hole, and I discovered more about menopause. And then at the end of 2022, I got diagnosed with early menopause. So the average age for menopause in the UK is 51, and you can have symptoms for kind of up to 10 years before that. So 35, 36 was quite early. That's what they call it, early menopause. So then I kind of was like, right, I feel like I found my purpose, my path in life. And I did more research, educated myself, took courses, learned more about myself in order to help women going through this change of life, and also to kind of put the spotlight on that it isn't an older woman, not that 50's old, but an older woman issue, that it can actually happen to women at any age. And there are women even in their 20s that go through puberty and then hit menopause because there's some issue with what's going on in their cycle, or they go into induced menopause because they have a hysterectomy.
Sure.
So it's all these kind of different things that happen to you as a woman that isn't explained to you. We're told about periods, we're told about pregnancy, and then this whole second half of our life is kind of skipped over. It's like, oh, you'll have a hot flush and you'll feel like you're losing your mind, but that's okay, you just kind of put up with it. And that's kind of what women had to do for so long, like put up with it, like put up and shut up. And I think now the tide is changing and more women are coming out and speaking about it. And I think because women are living longer as well, you're going to be in this phase of your life for so much longer. So educating yourself about what's happening in your body is the best thing that I've ever done for myself in order to help me, and then obviously to help other women going forward as well.
Sure. Well, where do we begin? So, started as a PT. What attracted you to doing that as a living? So
I'd kind of flitted in and out of the gym for years. I was quite lucky. I was always quite slim but quite skinny. So I was like, okay, I want to build muscle, get that toned look, which is basically building muscle. So I became a personal trainer and was like, okay, I really enjoyed working on me. Now I want to help other women kind of get stronger and get the toned look and just, look good at any age. And that you do that by looking after your body, building muscle, eating well. So that's kind of where I started with my journey. And then obviously, like I said, it kind of evolved from there.
Yeah. So, okay. Menopause. There seems to be a lot more symptoms from it than we really realise.
Yeah.
Can you highlight some of those?
There's 50 plus symptoms.
Yeah.
This is why I think if you're going to your doctor, especially as a younger woman, you're often dismissed because, oh, well, it's just part of your cycle, or, oh, are you stressed, or, oh, do you want antidepressants?
Yeah.
So symptoms like, you've probably heard of like the hot flushes, the night sweats. I don't get hot flushes, I get cold flushes, which is like cold sensation runs through your body, which is bizarre. If you didn't know what's happening, it's quite unnerving. You can get things like watery eyes, tinnitus. That's one that pops up from time to time just in my ear, which is quite frustrating. But actually, it's not just the physical symptoms, it's actually the mental symptoms as well, because you can become quite anxious, quite overwhelmed. You kind of feel like you're losing your sense of self, and you don't really recognise the person that you used to be. And that, again, is quite unnerving, especially if you don't know that it's menopause. And this is why I think so many women go to their doctor and are prescribed antidepressants, because their bloods come back normal, because a blood test is not a definitive diagnosis for menopause. There's other factors that we need to look into. So they're given antidepressants, unfortunately, and that's not fixing the issue, because it's usually just because your hormones are declining.
Yeah. So
your estrogen, your progesterone, and your testosterone as well is all declining, but it's not just a slow decline, it's a haywire. So this is why some women will feel fine one week and then like they've hit rock bottom the next, because they're fluctuating so much. So yeah, like I said, there's 50 plus symptoms, but it's very difficult for women to pinpoint maybe, oh, this is menopause. Because it's so vast.
I heard someone say that they was at a networking event actually, and she said that she was told to get some counselling because what was happening, what she told me was that there was so much cortisol in her body that it was making her there was a lot of anxiety, and then a process of that then was to have bring up everything from childhood, from everyone that had ever done something wrong to them, and just couldn't sleep, was manic all the time. So you need to, and perhaps he did, but actually the cause of it was this unbelievable amount of cortisol that was going through the body all the time.
Yeah.
Sounded horrific.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fun. I mean, for me, I'm trying to put a different spin on it, because obviously there's a lot of women out there that are really struggling and that need help, but I feel like the media portrays it a very negative experience.
Right.
Whereas, yes, we need to deal with symptoms, we need to look at changing our lifestyle and looking at that as a whole, but it's also kind of going into it with the right mindset of this can be a really empowering time for a woman, because eventually your periods stop, which is very liberating. Fantastic. And it's a time to kind of step into this different era, this different version of you, and it's not that, I think some women feel like it's a loss of someone they used to be, which it is, but then you're stepping into this newer version, which you don't care anymore. You give less fucks, basically, because you don't care what anybody thinks of you. Yeah. And that's so liberating, because, like, especially through our 20s, like, we care so much about what people think of us. And then you're getting to this point in life where you're like, wow, this is fantastic. Like, how amazing is this that I can step into this era, and then I can kind of help other women that maybe are younger to explain that it's not a time to shrink down, it's a time to step into your power.
Yeah. So many questions in my head. Okay, so you mentioned an era of no fucks. You have a podcast yourself, actually, and that's called No Fucks Given. Yeah. And so we can see where that name comes from. Yeah. I like that name. And tell us a bit about the podcast then. So, just the kind of people you get on and what it's all about.
Yeah, so I talk a bit about my story. I talk about what kind of things have helped me personally, because I think when you are getting advice from someone that's kind of been through it, it resonates a bit more than someone that's not, because they've been through what you're experiencing. So a bit about that, and then I get guests on who either want to tell their own personal story, or women that are in a similar kind of space. Like I had my yoga teacher on who does a lot of somatic work and counselling and helps a lot of women through menstrual health and other issues. It's like a full kind of package thing, talking about her journey. So it's just about women telling their stories of, yes, they may have had a shit time, but how they've got through it and what's been the outcome of that. So it's really good.
Yeah. Okay, so, you know, someone's might be thinking, okay, could be menopause. What kind of advice would you give?
Where do you start?
Obviously, so it's as a coach, you just you want to talk to them what's going on and all that kind of. So it's not one size fits all, obviously. But I suppose there's some things to look out for, or somewhere you can go or find someone to talk to, or whatever. There's a question there somewhere.
We'll go with it. I think for me, the first place to start would be lifestyle. So look at your diet. You want to be eating a high protein, whole food diet, limiting processed food as much as possible. Because as we're going through menopause, we're losing muscle mass. This is why women start to put on weight. They think that, menopause causes weight. It doesn't. It's the reducing muscle mass. Reduces your basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories you'll burn at rest. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn at rest. So we need a high protein, whole food diet, and also strength training. So either body weight or lifting weights, 2 to 3 times a week. That's going to build muscle, keep muscle, so that, for longevity, because if we have low muscle mass, we're subject to osteopenia and osteoporosis, which are bone diseases. So, if you can, from your doctor, get a DEXA scan, that would be great. I think all women 45 plus should be offered a DEXA scan by the NHS to see the level of bone density, because I had one as part of my tests. Mine was all normal at this stage, but I think probably because I'm a personal trainer and I've been strength training for so many years, it's probably okay at this stage. Strength training, walking. Walking is so underrated. Just every day, 30 minutes every day. Don't worry about, I need 10,000 steps. Just focus on moving your body more, because aching joints and feeling lethargic can be another symptom. So the best thing you can do is move your body. You might not feel like you want to move your body, but it's the best thing you can do. And now the weather's getting nicer, you can get out and about.
It's lovely.
It is, I know, it's so nice today. Diet, exercise, and then looking at limiting alcohol, because that's just going to put more stress on your body. And yes, you might feel good in the moment, but if, the next day you're going to feel crap. Not saying you should cut it out completely if you don't want to, but just limiting it. Limiting sugar, limiting caffeine, and getting into a really good sleep routine. Because if we are getting 2 or 3 hours of sleep, we're just going to feel crap, just mentally anyway. And then you just make your food choices aren't as good the next day because you're hungry. So it's looking at all the little bits of your life and how can you improve 1%. So don't be like, okay, well, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, because then we fall off the wagon. It's about doing that 1%. So can I go for a walk every day for the next 7 days? And then once you've done that, okay, can I change my breakfast from cereal to eggs? Little things like that are just going to start to slowly make a difference.
I think you mentioned walking, obviously. Dr. Michael Mosley sadly passed away recently. He did a show. What was it him? There was a show on BBC, and it might have been Xander, the doctor. I can't remember the name, so it's really it's good for the podcast, isn't it? They're trying to get people off drugs, statins and blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, that kind of thing. And literally half an hour walk a day was like the wonder drug that that's all they needed, and it reduces stress and increased blood flow and all that kind of stuff. And it always struck me how easy it was and how more people should do it. Right.
Absolutely. No, agreed. 100% agreed.
So, what kind of, if someone's come to you for help, what's the process like with you?
So it's about getting to know them, because I have all these tools in my toolbox I can use, but it's not going to work for every woman. Like, some women, intermittent fasting works really well, and for other women they're like, no, it's not for me. So it's about understanding kind of where they are in their journey, what kind of mindset they're in as well, because you have to be open to coaching. You have to be open to trying new things. And you are, in reality, starting to change all these habits, so changing this paradigm that you're currently into a new one, which is really difficult to do because the body is used to this safety and will always pick the safety rather than going into this new version of you.
Yeah.
So they've got to want to do it and take on the advice that I'm going to give them, because it's not going to be easy, because it's really difficult, and there's going to be times where you're not going to want to get up and go to the gym, and you're not going to want to do this, and that's okay. Sometimes we need to listen to our bodies and do that, but we have to start building new habits in order to feel better long term, because for me it's not come to me for 6 months and then that's it. This is a lifestyle you're going to have to implement for the rest of your life, because it's about age-proofing your body moving forward, and not just, I want to lose a bit of weight and that's it. Like in our 20s, like, oh, I'll just lose a bit of weight and then it's okay. This is different now, because as we get older, I don't want to be the woman in the chair hunched over with osteoporosis. Like, my nan was 94 when she died, and she was that person, and she had arthritis and various things wrong with her. And that's kind of my driving force to not get to that point, and it's not inevitable that you'll get to that point if you start to look after your body now with simple lifestyle changes. They're not big things that we need to do, it's just we live in a society where we want everything now, and we can click Amazon and it's here in a few hours or the next day. We can't do that with our bodies. We do have to put in the work, unfortunately.
So when Alyssa came on, she talked about walking out of a job, almost walking out of a relationship, and just not being happy with anything that she was doing. Almost didn't. She tells a story about being in a meeting at work and people she'd worked with for 10 years and she couldn't remember the names and things like that.
Yeah, that happens.
And that would make you think you're going a bit insane, really.
Yeah.
Or early onset Alzheimer's or something like that. You must have some nice stories of people that turned around and a lot happier after that. Without naming names, obviously. Can you share some of those?
Yeah, of course. There was one woman that I worked with. She was like so hesitant to work with me. She's like, I've worked with loads of coaches. I've done this, I've done that, nothing works. And I was like, okay. I was like, right, sign up for a month. If nothing happens, you can go. Like, because it's usually 6 months. I was like, look, sign up, let's do it together. And then we started on the journey. And then after the first week, she sent me this voice note that said, it's only fucking working. I've lost 2 pounds. And like just that little win of losing those 2 pounds. Yeah. She's like, for years I've not been able to do anything. Nothing has worked. And I think it was just the mindset shift and just changing little things about her diet. To the point now where she booked a boudoir shoot for herself because she'd lost the weight, she felt confident. And that's more important for me. Yes, she's lost weight, which is going to help long term, but it's more about the confidence in herself now, to the fact that she would go and actually book a photo shoot that she would never have done before. And And I understand where the hesitancy comes from, because, and that the personal trainer industry and the coaching industry is fantastic for, I think, people of a certain age, women of a certain age, like when you're in your 20s, yes, absolutely this can help. But I think once you start heading into the menopause age, it's not just about the personal training and the coaching, it comes more into being more personable and more about the mindset work. And I think sometimes that's kind of missing with some of maybe the younger coaches that are trying to maybe branch into this. Not like knocking any of them or anything, it's just I think there's less of an understanding there. But yeah, she's fantastic now. We're not working together anymore. She's kind of just off on her own path, and she's great. And then I had another woman who had 3 kids, and she's like, I can't lose any weight. I've just lost the plot. And again, I think she lost 10 kilos in total, getting back to the weight she was before, but she was just happier in herself. And she just said it's not difficult, it's just little changes that you need to make in order to see the results, but it's about doing it long term, not 6 months.
So for my sins, I still play cricket. I'm the oldest in the team by quite a long way these days, and that just creeps up on you. You put on weight and you're not as mobile in the field, you find yourself looking at younger fellas going, they're agile and can run and have both knees that work, and you're like, that used to be me. Why did that happen? And I found myself having a really daft conversation with someone who said it's all about, exercise and making sure you're not putting, this is the calories you're using, this is what you're putting into your body, I know. But I ended up saying, no, it doesn't work. But I know I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about life around it. Like you said, patterns of behaviour, good sleep, probably, have one too many drinks, or don't sleep enough, and the next day you find yourself eating more just to get through the day and having more coffee. And there was a moment where I just thought, you've got to make a change. I mean, I'm talking about 3 days ago, actually. But it's not for a few months, it's like every single day. You have a pattern of, but work, you have a family, lady with 3 kids, hard work, and you'll have spikes and drops in blood pressure, and you just pick up something sweet and keeps you going for the next half an hour or so.
Yeah.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard. If it was easy, everyone would be at the peak physical fitness. The NHS probably wouldn't exist to what it does, because everybody would be so healthy. But yeah, like you said, you've got to change your mindset around it and look at it as a long-term thing. I'm actually reading a really good book called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor.
Right.
And he talks about how it is difficult, but it's more difficult to stay where you are, because if you put in the work now, the rewards down the line are going to be better. And again, that kind of feeds into the instant gratification that we live in at the moment. But if you understand that what you're doing is changing a paradigm and changing the habits, then when you kind of go off course, you'll course correct yourself, because you'll realise what you're doing and you'll say, okay, I had that blip, but I'm going to course correct back onto the path that I want to go down. But it takes time and it's difficult.
I suppose if you get into being a PT, you're probably young yourself. It's about improving performance, or some form of ideology about the body and how it should look, or social media likes and all that kind of stuff. So perhaps that's why it's focused on more than later in life. But do you feel like there's more of a shift recently to longevity and living life, to keeping healthier for longer these days? Or?
I think so. I mean, there's always going to be the people on social media with the six-pack and the abs, and they look a certain way, and realistically, for most people, that isn't realistic. And it's also not that healthy, because most people that are living that way, to look that kind of way, they're on a really strict diet. They're probably in the gym like 5-6 times a week. And for the average person who's got a family and who has to go to work and then cook and then do all these things, it's not realistic. And most women that I speak to actually don't want to look like that. They just want to be happy and healthy. So I definitely feel like there is a shift at the moment with women wanting to not look a certain way, but to feel a certain way, which I'm really pleased about, because that's kind of what I promote anyway. And for me, it's about, like I've said, age proofing the body and living that long, healthy life, so you can see your kids grow up, so you can see grandkids. Not that there's anything wrong with you wanting to look a certain way. That's absolutely not a negative goal at all. But there's more to it now than just looking a certain way.
Remember in the 90s there was a programme, I can't remember what it was called, and it was following these guys that were in their 80s and 90s that were still competing in athletics and and sporting events, and they were testing the physiology, their muscles, and saying as you get older the number of muscle cells decrease, and to stay at physical fitness where you can keep going is to build up the ones you've got that are still there. So that's why they say shift more to kind of weight training as you get older.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about that for the women, actually.
Yeah, it's
perfect sense.
Yeah, it's more, I would say, probably more important for women because we have the hormones that are declining. So we haven't got that protection there. So in order to protect your bones as well, because most women who have osteoporosis don't know. They know when they fall and they break a bone or break a hip, and you're like, oh, you've got osteoporosis. Whereas actually if we were giving women the DEXA scans earlier and catching it at the osteopenia stage, then it's not going to go to full-blown osteoporosis. And the way to protect your body is to weight train and to eat a high-protein diet. Because again, women don't eat enough protein.
Right.
Like the average woman that comes to me, like they'll probably have cereal for breakfast, and then they might have a sandwich with maybe a bit of ham or chicken, and then the evening meal might be full of protein. Whereas really we need to be eating like a palm-sized piece of protein with every meal, which is around 30 grams. More if you can, but to start with, that would be a really good starting point. So changing like your cereal to Greek yogurt, for example, because that's high in protein. Even adding a scoop of I add vanilla protein powder to it.
Right.
And it tastes nice, and you've got extra protein in there, and then you can add like nuts and berries and seeds and things onto it. So again, it's just clever little ways of changing what you're eating, but not in a drastic way.
What are the main challenges for you in this business at the moment?
I think probably a few years ago, especially when COVID was happening, a lot of people were hiring kind of coaches because we were all at home and we couldn't go to the gym, so people wanted to stay active. But as people kind of are learning more about the online coaching industry, I think they've been more discerning about who they're investing with, which I think is a really good thing, because anyone can go on and say, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. But if they haven't had the proper training and the proper background to know what they're doing, then you could just be kind of throwing money down the drain. A lot of people will give, a lot of coaches give people kind of like cookie cutter programs and then off they pop. Whereas with something like I do, which is menopause, it's more person focused, and it has to be getting to know that person. And obviously I'm going through it myself, what's worked for me, but then I've also invested in myself in order to become the best coach I can. So things around menopause, things around menstrual cycle, more holistic side of things, and then I'm always constantly learning, wanting to invest so that I can get the best out of them by investing in me, basically.
Sure. See any challenges in the future?
Challenges in the future.
Do you, I'm going to interrupt that question because I don't know whether there's challenges for everyone, isn't there? Industry-wise, as a coach, it's like you say, it's important to keep up with the latest research and that kind of thing. What how did you I've lost what I was going to say. Cut this out. Brain's not working.
It's alright.
I suppose what I'm trying to ask without asking the question we usually ask is that, how do you measure success? What's success for you? But in my mind, that's really obvious. But let's ask it anyway. Let's cut it out.
Success for me is just if I change one woman's life, that's success for me. Like the content that I put out, I want it to be educational, but also kind of inspire something in somebody to go, okay, this isn't the path that I have to take. I don't have to endure this. There are things I can do. So success to me is helping each and every woman that comes to me in some capacity, but also changing the narrative around menopause as well and making it into a more positive thing, a time of empowerment, a time of women stepping into their power, stepping into their authority, and not shrinking like a lot of them do.
Yeah.
Because they're just overcome with all the symptoms and they're not able to get the help that they need.
Yeah. I always felt like there was a bit of shame about it. And I suppose there's lots of psychological issues over if you've had children or if you wanted them, if you... but my surprise was my view of it as my awareness grew and trying to understand what was going on with people, and then suddenly you think back to your childhood and how aunties changed slightly, and it was always a bit hush hush and that, and it was a shame for me not to have more awareness and just understanding about what was going on there.
Yeah, but it's good that you notice that now and you want to have more awareness around it. So if you have kids and you educate them, then you're already educating the next generation down.
Yeah.
And the more we talk about it and the more awareness that is brought to it now, that ripples down to the next generation, and then maybe the next generation that come up aren't dealing with all this because they're already so informed that it's just part of life already.
You hear a lot about HRT and what's your views on that as a treatment or a way of coping with it?
It works for some women, doesn't work for every woman, and it's not a magic pill that you'll take and you'll feel better. I took HRT for around 8 months and it helped with my symptoms, but I didn't feel like myself on it. It felt very much like I was back on hormonal contraception, which it almost felt like I was like a bit numb and a bit closed off. It's a strange feeling to kind of describe. So I was like, okay, well, I've got all this knowledge, I'm going to come off it and I'm just going to manage it myself. Now, I think there's women that definitely need HRT as a stepping stone to be able to get back on an even keel. Like, I've read stories of women like who were suicidal to the point they were put on HRT and it helped. It helped them get away from like those suicidal thoughts. So it has its place, but you need to be looking at lifestyle as well.
Mm.
And it's so personal. I would never tell someone to take it or not to take it. You have to do your own research and come to your own conclusions.
Yeah.
I have women on HRT and not on HRT that I work with. It's, you know, it's not something that I'm like, no, I won't work with you because you're on HRT or anything like that, because it's helping them at the time. But yeah, lifestyle is the most important thing.
So what's next for you? What's going on? What are you looking forward to with coaching and all that? What plans do you have?
So I've just completed a menstruality leadership program course, which is all about menstrual cycle, but using it as more of a way to tap in to understand your body more. So I'm going to be bringing that more into my coaching, understanding the different phases of your cycle, not how you're supposed to feel, but how you may feel at that point in your cycle. So for a lot of women, they're like, oh, but last week I could lift this amount of weight and now I can't this week. And then they feel bad about that, and it's like, no, that's the hormones, and that's normal, because at different points in your cycle you will feel differently and you will feel stronger. When you're heading into your menstrual phase, you're going to feel tired. That's normal. When you're in your ovulation phase, that's when you're most energy. So it's tapping into more of that and learning more about your body. And I genuinely think the more women that understand their menstrual cycle before they even get to perimenopause, it will make their journey so much easier.
Sure.
Because they understand themselves and they're already tuning into their bodies and noticing when things are changing. That's what it was like for me. I noticed things were sort of changing. But if you're not aware and you don't track your cycle, then you may not see those kind of things happening.
Yeah.
So that's something nice to kind of bring in as part of the coaching, and just carry on doing this work and just get as much information out there to as many women as possible, that they aren't alone. And you know, if they ever need just a chat, just to talk to somebody, because sometimes that's all they need, just a little bit of a chat with someone and they just feel better.
Amazing. Well, obviously you've got the podcast, No Fucks Given, and put everything on on the links for everything, that and try and bring awareness to what you're trying to do. Everyone I know that's had contact with you says you're really good, so you know, you can see how much you care about what you do, and I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Nice.
Right, I hope that was